Wow, you're a big coffee drinker.
Usually I have small coffee like yours, but today really I need extra push. I have to work.
That is not a small coffee, that is a micro coffee. This is a small coffee.
And yours is not a big coffee, that's a medium coffee. This is a big coffee.
This is not a big coffee, this is gigantic coffee.
In the world of global trade, how people talk about the size of a business can be confusing to outsiders. You may have a general sense when you hear the stat that 90% of all business worldwide are small. Oh, but that excludes the Amazons, Toyotas, and Nestlé's of the world. But what do we actually mean when we say small business or use the acronym SME or MSME? How are they defined? And what does that mean for you as a small business owner? These are the questions we are exploring as the Small Business Agency of the United Nations.
The truth is, there is no universal answer because countries and economic blocs define business size differently. There is no international standard like there is for USB cables on what constitutes a micro, small, or medium-sized business. For that matter, there is no global definition of a big business either. A tech startup with 20 employees might bring in millions, while a local manufacturing firm with 200 employees might operate on razor-thin margins. So, which is bigger?
Some countries, like Uruguay, use headcount and turnover to define size. The EU classifies businesses using a combination of headcount, turnover, and balance sheets totals. India uses investments and turnover. Meanwhile, in China, definitions vary by sector, with different thresholds for headcount, revenue, and total assets depending on the industry.
So, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Different places have different priorities and development levels, hence different definitions. Depending on the country and the region, these non-big businesses are eligible for a variety of government support, anywhere from skills training to low-interest loans. And because there is no standard definition for these terms, they are used pretty loosely in international discussions. From a quick search online, you will often find all three terms used interchangeably to essentially mean non-big businesses. Take a moment, pause this video, and drop your country's definition of a small business in the comments. Let's see how they compare. Now that you're here, pause the video and drop your comments. Now, before we get into how you should navigate these terms when they get confusing, let's first take a look at where they came from and why we went from just saying business to MSME. Turns out, there's a pretty good reason for it.
When the International Trade Center was created in 1964, our job was to provide
technical assistance tools and programs to help the developing world participate in international trade.
Back then, we mostly said exporters or small exporters because they were the ones who needed the most help. In fact, we found this 1962 proposal from Brazil to the General Agreements on Tariff and Trade, which later became the World Trade Organization to establish ITC. It doesn't mention business size at all. It just refers to exporters from less developed countries. As our work expanded, we began supporting aspiring exporters too. And since every exporter is a business, that meant we were not working with businesses that needed help exporting, which tended to be small. By the 1970s, the term SME was becoming more common in policy and trade circles. Governments needed more precise classifications for things like investment schemes, tax rebates, and support programs. There's no historical record of which economies coined the term SME, but institutions like the EU and OECD were among the earliest adopters to use the term in a consistent, policy-relevant way.
We at ITC used small exporters and small businesses right up until 1987, when we first used the term SME in our Trade Forum magazine. It goes, ITC conducted a seminar on increasing exports from small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, fast forward to the early 2000s. International trade was transforming. More solo entrepreneurs could export thanks to improved logistics, digital payment platforms, and online marketplaces. Even businesses smaller than small were entering the picture. And suddenly, SME was not specific enough. And that's where MSME comes in. Adding micro acknowledges businesses under the traditional small threshold. For example, smallholder farmers or solo producers along a value chain. Even if they're not exporting directly, they contribute to international trade indirectly. Now, we cannot find out who was the first person to utter MSME, but we do know it was first legally introduced by India in its Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act in 2006, which among other things aimed at providing more targeted support. The term then gathered steam among developing countries. So, in 2015, the Philippines submitted a proposal to the WTO advocating for greater MSME participation in global trade, highlighting the importance of the smallest component in the SME sector. In the grand scheme of things, this is still a pretty new concept in international trade. In fact, the MSME Day, which is 27th of June, was only designated by the UN General Assembly in 2017. And with that, we went from small exporter to small business to SME to MSME, with each term expanding to be more inclusive as global trade evolved. Okay, so with that background, what do these terms mean for your business? Here are the key takeaways.
First, figure out what your government defines as a small business. There may be benefits that you, as a small business owner, can take advantage of, such as grants, tax incentives, or loan guarantees that make it easier to secure financing. Second, engage with your national business support organization. Staff can point you in the right direction if you need access to market intelligence, training, and skills development, advisory services, or just networking opportunities. And third, don't let the jargon stop you. In a global context, if you think your business might qualify for support, it probably does. Just go ahead and explore your options.
So next time when you hear us say, ITC is the joint agency of the WTO and the UN dedicated to supporting MSME from developing countries to grow through export, that's a long sentence, don't get caught up in whether you are an M, an S, or the other M. Just visit our website and see what we've got that works for you.